Wayne County
Hello?
911, where's your emergency?
My mom's on the floor. Please help.
Okay, sir, where do you
She's-
stay? What's your address?
Like, she's laying down and she won't get up. My address is 1711 Crowell Street.
When a child dials 911, they need to stay on the line with us. They don't need to hang up or get scared. Just stay on the line with us. We're going to ask a couple of questions, probably ask to speak to the parents as well, just to make sure if it is an emergency or not an emergency.
And of course, that's always good advice for anyone who may dial 911, even if it's a misdial. Stay on the line. Daniel, when a call comes into the 911 call center, and it's not a prank, and there is a child on the other end, what do you ask the child?
The first thing we try to get is the address.
You verify the address with the child.
That's correct.
And you know this is not a prank this time.
That's correct.
Okay, it's not a prank, the child's not playing with the phone. When should a child use the 911 system or dial 911?
A child should use the system whenever there's an actual emergency. What we try to suggest for children is to use your actual home phone or landline, because that way whenever it pops up on our Annie and Allie information, the address is automatically put in our CAD system. All we have to do is verify it.
All right, now I think I understand what you just said. But let's go over that again. When a child calls in from a landline, you automatically get a lot more information from a landline than you do a cell phone.
That's correct.
So when a child dials 911, they should be using a phone from within the home.
That's correct.
And when they dial 911, this information, the address, will go immediately into your system.
That's right.
And then the child then answers the questions of the person on the other end.
That's right.
All right, so when should a child not use 911?
I know a lot of schools, they start out early teaching children how to use 911. Do not use it just to test it out. Use it whenever there's an actual emergency.
What sort of calls have you been getting that are not emergencies?
Just children playing, wanting to know where their mommy's at or where their daddy's at and so forth.
So locked out of the house, would that be considered an emergency?
In some instances, yes.
Depending on the age of the child?
That's correct.
All right, what about when a child is testing out the system? Does the child normally stay on the line and talk to the person on the other end?
They do stay on the line sometimes, then sometimes they'll get scared and hand it to their parents, and that way we can verify that it is a misdial 911.
Okay, so the child must understand the difference between an emergency and a non-emergency.
That's right.
So how would you sum this up? What would you tell a child the difference is between an emergency and a non-emergency, and what would you tell the child to do if there is an emergency?
The difference between an emergency and not an emergency is whenever help is actually needed. You don't need to call for help on your homework. You need to call if somebody in your house is hurt or if your house is on fire.
We've been talking with Daniel Wiggins of the Office of Emergency Services here in Wayne County, and we've been talking about the 911 system. The important thing is don't hang up once you dial 911. For WGTV, I'm Wayne Alley.
I'm showing I've got officers on scene at DuPont Circle, sir. Okay. He went. Okay. Do you see the officer, sir? Okay. You said you think he went in 134? All right.
We're here in the Office of Emergency Services for Wayne County. We're talking with Chris Barnes. Chris, what do you do here?
I'm a 911 dispatcher here at the center.
So when someone calls 911, you're one of the guys that answers the phone.
Yes, sir.
Now, how often do you get misdials, or how often do you get calls that are not emergencies?
It is frequent that we get calls that are misdials. It's very frequent that we get calls that would be considered non-emergency calls. But there are several emergencies that we receive as well.
And of course, we want children to learn how to use 911, and it's a good thing they're learning in school, but we want the parents to help in the learning of how to use 911 and the proper use of 911. And when they dial a friend, or when they're dialing a relative, or when they're dialing someone else, we want the children to understand what 911 is and what it means when they dial 911 instead of their 919, to be more careful about it.
That's absolutely right. 911 should be used for an emergency.
Only for emergencies. And if they happen to dial accidentally?
That's not a problem. We just want to make sure that everything is okay.
Okay, and to stay on the line,
Stay on the line and let us know that it was a misdial. Verify your address for us, just so we don't send somebody out unnecessarily.
and if it is a misdial, no one's in trouble.
That's absolutely right. It's not a problem. We do get them all the time, and our main concern is just to make sure that the public is okay.
I know at one time there used to be a concern with people calling 911 pulling pranks. And they'd dial 911 to a certain address, and then they'd stand around and watch all the lights and everything. Is that still a problem?
It's not as big a problem as it used to be now that we do have address verification services that will allow us to backtrack and to see where the call actually came from.
So you can actually find out where these calls came from, and if it's somebody playing a game or somebody having fun with the 911 system.
That's right.
Yeah.
We can trace it now a little bit better than we could in the past.
And there are stiff penalties for abuse of 911.
That's very correct.
All right.
There is a call type that we have that is strictly dedicated to misuse of 911.
All right, so we'll encourage everyone to please pay attention when you're dialing 911 or when you're dialing 919. If you intend to dial 911, stay on the line. And if you did not intend to dial 911 and you get the emergency services here, please stay on the line anyway. Dial carefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Wayne Alley for WGTV.